Welcome to today's webinar about sensational CENs, making the most of your professional networks. I'm Dominique Lowenthal and I'm Head of Professional Development here at the RCSLT. Before we really get started, let's just quickly cover some housekeeping information. So I won't read each of the bullet points on the screen. I'll give you a moment to read those for yourselves. I think it's worth saying that after the webinar, we'll be sending out all of the links that we are covering today to you directly. And we're looking for the webinar to be about 45 minutes with an opportunity for questions at the end. And without too much further ado, I'd just like to introduce some of our presenters today. We're very, very lucky to have Louisa here, who's a chair of a CEN in the Northwest, Tom Griffin, who's our inquiries coordinator and a key person that people talk to about starting a CEN or tips about CENs or promoting CENs, and also Lauren Longhurst, who not only is our research officer, but she's also a co-chair of a CEN in London. So to kick things off, I'm going to pass things to Tom.
Thanks very much, Dom. Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Griffin, as Dom said. My role at the RCSLT is to be inquiries coordinator. Part of that role is to support the communities that within the profession, specifically CENs. My role is to support CENs with initial registration, ensuring that their details are made available on the website. I'm also here to support CENs in setting up Basecamp, helping with troubleshooting any issues that may arise. I'm also here to talk through Basecamp issues with Basecamp administrators, CEN committees, and other members to talk them through how to use Basecamp and how to get the most out of it for their CEN. So our CEO, Kamini Gautok, has been quoted as saying that CENs are the lifeblood of our profession and are fundamental to the core role that members play in providing CPD opportunities, producing and disseminating the evidence base. CENs are playing an ever-increasing role, and have done for a long, long time now, in shaping the evidence base for the profession. And they're a vital source of CPD for all members, from those at the start of their careers, such as students and newly qualified practitioners, to full practicing members and those returning to the profession or needing to update their knowledge and skills. Here at the RCSLT, we're really committed to helping members access the latest resources and to help support them to be involved in creating the latest evidence base and guidance and link with other members to strengthen the profession. So I'm going to go through in this talk about a few of the resources that are available to members and to CENs. Just wanted to have a bit of a brief interlude. One of the main confusions that I get with members is what is the difference between hubs and CENs? So like the slide shows that here, hubs and CENs are a bit like apples and pears. They're definitely similar in they are communities within the profession, but there's also clear differences between them. So I'm just going to try and explain a little bit about what they are. Hubs were developed around geographical regions, and they've been designed to help galvanize the people working in the profession to allow discussion and information sharing about issues that are affecting the profession locally. CENs, on the other hand, are specific member-led groups set up around specific clinical areas that allow members to share best practice, discuss and develop the evidence base, and to fulfill CPD. RCSLT always suggests that all RCSLT members should be members of their hubs, and so all members of CENs should be members of hubs as well. This will help to ensure that information shared in either of the communities can be shared with the other communities. So any information shared throughout local hubs can be shared with CENs, etc. You can access both of these via Basecamp. So now I'll take you briefly through some of the resources and support that the RCSLT can offer CENs. Last year, the web pages on our website were redesigned specifically for CENs and updated to link CENs to the most appropriate and useful information and resources on our website. Included in this update was a much more comprehensive and useful set of pages for members searching for available CENs. These pages now allow members to search for CENs locally via their hub region or geographical area, or by specific clinical area. These web pages, as you can see on the screen, can be found under the members area under the professional network section. We also updated our dedicated page in support for CENs. This offers links to really useful resources and guidance on our website, including CPD resources such as current and past webinars and other learning tools that may be useful, latest research, which Lauren will touch on a little bit later on, CQ Live, including resources to help members meet the standards set by the HCPC, again, which I will touch on a little bit later on, promoting CENs, so things like bulleting advertising deadlines and how to advertise events, financial guidance and events planning. With that in mind, one of the most useful resources available through our webpage is the Hubs Event Toolkit. Now, the Hub Toolkit was developed to help Hubs specifically executing and evaluating their events. Included within the resource are templates for forms and documents to be used when planning events, for use on the day and for evaluating events, as well as really useful guidelines on how to start planning an event and formulating agendas, etc. Now, I know it's a Hub event toolkit, but the resources in the toolkit are not specific, and so they are relevant for all community groups. So we've made it available through the CEN web pages as well to help support CENs in developing their own events. We also updated our CEN financial guidelines recently to help CENs manage their finances better. The guidance can be found on the resources for CEN's webpage and includes basic information on the role of the treasurer within a CEN, setting up and managing a bank account, reports that need to be developed, and other links to national guidance that are also available for groups similar to CENs. Now, I'm sure you all have seen Basecamp before or heard of it. This is another really useful tool for CENs that we've been able to make available. It's a way of CENs being able to communicate with their members much easier and much more fluidly. Whenever a CEN registers with us, we will automatically set you up with a Basecamp account. And this can be used to communicate with your members and to share information. Basecamp's got a number of really useful basic features, such as the facility to store files and documents in one place, group messaging and discussions, a shared CEN calendar with the ability to assign tasks to different CEN members and to enter deadlines and milestones for things such as planning an event, etc. In addition to this, there are other features that can be really useful but aren't necessarily readily used by CENs at the moment. One of these is the write board function. This allows CEN members to work on a single shared document, such as a guidance paper or position paper, at the same time without needing to email it backwards and forwards and with track changes, etc. Basecamp allows members to work on the document at the same time from different locations and saves all changes that all members make. This means that all members can see what's been changed by who, and people can revert back to previous versions if required. These functions can help CENs disseminate information easily to members and develop resources themselves. Basecamp is also used by Hubs at the moment, and we do encourage all CENs, when they're developing an event, to post their event on the Hub Basecamp site as well as their CEN Basecamp site. This helps to share information and grow the membership attending that event, but also it helps to prevent those diary conflicts that can occur between CEN events and study days, etc. Another resource is CQ Live. CQ Live is a successor for CQ3 and has been developed to provide guidance and resources to support members to meet the standards set by the HCPC. It's a live resource, and with it being online, we're able to update resources and links in real time and meet the changing needs of the profession better. As well as the sections based around the 10 main HCPC standards, there are also really useful sections such as the resources section, which provides lots of in-depth resources looking at areas such as clinical decision making, outcome measures, and information governance. And also the scenarios section, which take actual real-life scenarios that we've had through FAQs and link them to resources we have on our website. We've had a lot of CENs that have used these as the basis for events or online discussions. So we're here to help connect CENs in a lot of variety of different ways. We can connect CENs with each other. We've had a number of CENs who we've got in contact with other CENs in order to pull resources and share events. We're able to connect CENs with local hubs to try and build the membership and to share events, etc. We're able to connect CENs with experts, advisors, and research champions to help with finding speakers, etc. And we're able to connect CENs with RCSLT speakers and projects, and connecting members with other CENs to try and ensure that members are able to find the CENs that are relevant to them.
Great. We thought this would be a great opportunity to also mention about how we're thinking about communities in the new RCSLT website. The RCSLT with members is currently looking at quite a big digital transformation project, and core to that is actually putting communities very much in the centre of the new website. So in the future, we're thinking of ways in which we can make things much easier for people to access. So for example, the ability for people to create new CENs easily, to find new CENs easily, sharing resources, promoting CENs widely to the wider membership. So at the moment, we know that with Basecamp, it's a little bit segregated still. You know, you go into one account, but it's very hard to see where there are other CENs that you might want to engage with. So we want to improve that. And I think also about notifications, you know, the ability for, as you can see on the slide, the ability to have your notifications in one place. So you can see if, you know, one or more of the CEN groups you're part of are messaging and responding to messages that you're interested in. It's worth saying that these little diagrams are just the initial sketches, and you know, very much we're working with members to help shape what this kind of community areas are going to look like. And if you're interested, this is definitely the right time to get involved and help us make sure that whatever we develop really works for you. I think that's basically it, the ability to very quickly and easily find groups. I'd like to hand over to Louisa Reeves, who's going to share some of her experience and ideas.
Thank you, Dominique. I'm here to talk a little bit about being involved in a CEN in the northwest of England, and just share a few experiences which we have found have worked really well for us. So what is the Northwest Mainstream Schools CEN? Apart from having one of the longest titles, I think, we're pretty much what we say on the tin. So we are mainly speech and language therapists, a few teachers as members and some assistants. And we work in mainstream schools, in a range of schools, mainly primary, but we also have some members who work in secondary schools. And I've been lucky enough to be the next chair in quite a long line of people who've really supported this CEN over many years, starting in the 1990s. And during that time, we've changed quite a lot in terms of the range of employers that we all work for. So we now have a range. We have some members who work for the NHS. We have CICs, small independent organisations, solitary independent practitioners, charities and schools. And we meet 3 times a year for an afternoon, and once every 2 years we hold a study day. That study day topic is chosen by the members. We have a very small committee presently. There's a chair, a treasurer and a secretary, but we also have deputies in those posts, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. We have an aim to have an open membership, as I've said, and in particular we encourage really wide participation in our study days. We also have an AGM every year, and that's when we try and persuade people to share the committee responsibilities with us. So what are the sort of things that we do? One of the things that we've decided to do in the last couple of years is to use a journal club to support us to really make time to read and discuss articles that are of interest to the whole group. We've had 3 of those so far, and the topics were selected from group votes from a number of articles proposed by the committee. It was our reading of an article by the German authors Motsch and Marx on their lexical pirate intervention that led on to quite a number of extra activities that we did. We contacted the authors to see if there was an English language version and discovered that there isn't. And several members have started to develop their own versions based on the research evidence for use in schools. And on the back of these discussions following the meeting we had, we decided that we wanted the topic of our study day last year to be on vocabulary, and that was really partly inspired by the lexical pirate resource, but also because that's such a key indicator for children, and it really also resonates with school staff. So this was the approach we used for our study day. We decided to use the working out loud approach as it felt like quite a natural fit with how speech and language therapists and how CENs in particular work. We didn't follow all the steps exactly, so if you Google working out loud, it's quite a kind of prescriptive format, but we like this idea of sharing and giving and trying things out. So the study day was a mix of presentations and discussion, and we had some very practical making of materials for an intervention. So we even provided paper and scissors and colouring pencils to members so that they could actually kind of have some time to develop resources. And we plan to keep up with encouraging members to use the approaches they developed on the day and to evaluate these and to share their experiences with other members. So I've talked about the journal club and the study day to really try and illustrate why I think CENs are important and why I think as speech and language therapists we join them. And just a few things to pull out from this really. One is about companionship. So it's really important to have like-minded individuals who are able to join together and share their experiences and get support. And we provide a safe space. CENs provide a safe space to do that kind of away from the work environment and other pressures. And I think as our employers change and diversify, it's increasingly important for us to be able to get together as professionals. And CENs provide somewhere where we can do that, where we can be speech and language therapists, perhaps with other speech and language therapists, if we work in areas where we might be the only person. And some of our members are the only speech and language therapist in a school. Gaining knowledge is obviously really important. So we all have a reading pile, even if it's a virtual one, and that gets put to the back of the priority list quite often when we're really busy. And so CENs give us permission to read that paper and to spend some time thinking about it, to sort of follow up on the research and really think about a hypothesis that's going to support our evidence-based practice and our CPD. And the CPD is supported not only just coming along to the meetings and reading journal articles and taking part in discussion, but actually that engagement with our professional body is one of the categories that we need to fill for our HCPC registration. And the other thing is that it's really important, I think, for us to be able to kind of stand up for our clinical area. For some CENs, for mainstream schools, it's more about promoting the importance of the role of the speech and language therapist in schools. And that's a key area for us. So what are some of the barriers then? What are the things that get in the way for us? Time, I think, is a really obvious one. So it's very difficult to carve out time from busy workloads to attend meetings or to support the running of a CEN. And there's always a limited number of people available and willing to join a committee. Another barrier can be technology. Tom's spoken about Basecamp and the positive aspects of it, but we certainly do have members who find it quite challenging to use that technology, and I think we're all looking forward to the new website and the greater functionality that will provide. There is sometimes tension between different employers, or we have to be quite conscious that some members now are working for organisations that perhaps are in direct competition with each other in an area, and sometimes we have different agendas and different areas that we want to focus on. And a topic is always a challenge. We need to pick a topic which keeps as many people as possible engaged and interested, and that will help people to attend meetings. So overcoming these, we limit the meetings to 3 a year, and we're investigating how we might use Skype to allow some members to join meetings virtually. We've successfully used deputy positions to increase people's confidence in taking on committee roles, and we use SurveyMonkey quite a lot in order to make sure that we get topics that are going to be of interest to as many people as possible. So plans for the future, we are planning the topic for discussion for our next meeting to be higher level language difficulties, and we plan to have a journal article for discussion on that and a speaker, and that topic was chosen in our most recent survey monkey ballot, and I can really recommend that as a tool for people to use. We've made successful contacts with Manchester University, and we plan to build on these to support our evidence-based practice and our future speakers and topics. And we've also made links with Lucid at Liverpool University, and they've offered their PhD students as speakers. Okay, so finally, I'm going to move to just offer a few top tips for you. So the first one of these is to recruit friends and colleagues. I put this up really because it's important to get some support if you're starting off a CEN, but I don't mean this to come across as cliquey in any way, because I think it's really important that membership is as open and wide as possible. Finding out about free venues is always useful, so local universities might be able to offer those. But we have colleagues who work within the NHS who are quite often able to find venues and rooms that are available. And that's always very useful because obviously that keeps costs down. Start planning early. I think we're probably all going to emphasise this is a really important point. So people need to get dates in the diary. They need to have time to negotiate permission to attend and to secure funding if they need to do that. Using Basecamp to share calendar events, making sure it goes on the hub, your local hub calendar, and you can disseminate information about that. And getting into Bulletin takes a bit of lead-in time to do that. So it's really important. So planning early and also kind of getting the message out there, so as many people as possible will have information in time to be able to attend. And finally, people like a speaker. So if you want to draw people into your CEN, then often getting a speaker who can talk to them about something which is very topical for them and give them some useful information will be a reason for people to come along. So that's me done. I'm now going to hand you over to Lauren, who is going to talk to you about her experiences.
Thank you, Louisa. I'm Lauren Longhurst. I'm the Research and Development Officer at the RCSLT. So my role is to support speech and language therapists to become evidence-based practitioners and to encourage people and support them in getting involved in research. In addition to this, I'm also the co-chair of the Mainstream Schools CEN in the London and Eastern regions. So I will be speaking from both perspectives. So as Tom mentioned before, we have some resources that are available to CENs to help you. We have a dedicated research centre highlighted on the slide where you can find a range of resources to support you. This includes help with finding the evidence, using evidence to support your clinical decision making, information about how to get involved with research, and also how to make links with other people. So maybe people with similar interests to you, people with experience in a particular clinical area, and people that might be able to offer you support such as research champions and clinical academic mentors. And I will go into a bit more detail in a moment. So this is where you can find all of these things, such as we have information about current projects that are going on. So at the moment, the research team are working on a research priorities setting exercise, and this is revolved around a lot of different clinical areas. So there's information about how you might want to get members of your CEN involved in this and how you can share the information to make sure that this project is kind of profession wide. We also have a journals collection, so you might want to use some of those articles to support your journal clubs in events such as Louise mentioned earlier. We also have dedicated research e-learning modules and a clinical decision making tool, and it might be useful for you to use these either on your own or also in groups at your CEN events. We have information about taking on a clinical academic career, and this might be something that you seek support from other CEN members so that you don't have to do this on your own, and information about networks such as our research champions. We often contact CENs to help us with projects and also membership queries, perhaps in a particular clinical area. We can also put your events and information about projects that you might be taking part in our research newsletter. We're always keen to hear about what CENs are up to and innovative ways that you're working so that we can share these with other CENs. They might like to use some of your ideas. We also have some clinical web pages. These have recently been updated. So we have these for 28 clinical areas, and there will probably be a clinical area that matches up with the CEN that you are either a member of or interested in. The resources available here have information such as characteristics, maybe prevalence and incidence statistics, information about what to spot in that particular clinical area. Then we have information about vulnerability and risk issues, the role of speech and language therapy in that clinical area, and also it kind of places that clinical area in national policy context, giving guidelines and supportive resources. And the resources that are available, such as the current evidence and research and policy documents, maybe even recent bulletin features, could be central to a discussion at your CEN study day. CENs are really key in promoting the evidence base and developing this as a group, and also disseminating the latest research amongst your peers. The RCSLT research team are really keen to come to your event and to give you support, maybe information about what research is available to you and how to access the evidence base, or maybe to give support to projects that you would like to take on. In terms of my top tips, these are mainly from being on a CEN committee perspective. So the first one kind of builds on what Louisa was saying about clarifying your roles within the CEN committee. So we currently have 2 chairs, 2 secretaries and 2 treasurers, and we find that takes the pressure off a little bit, even though within these roles we have specified kind of tasks and things that we're responsible for. So for example, one of our secretaries is in charge of social media. We might designate somebody to contact a speaker, and somebody else might book the venue for our study days. I think it's really important to clarify what roles you have and to return to the discussion if needed, just to make sure that everybody is sharing responsibility, no one's overwhelmed by trying to do this alongside their clinical role, and also just say that you're quite open about your availability and your priorities at the time. Normally you can work together as a team to put on your event. The second thing I would say is to ask speakers to include practical tips in their presentations. So we often ask people that have carried out current research to speak at our events, and we're really keen to give our members the latest evidence. And we found that speakers are actually really keen to disseminate their information and their knowledge. But from member feedback, we found that our members really want take-home tips and the ability to kind of apply the research to their clinical practice. The researchers are more than happy to do this if you ask them to include some things like this. And also this will help the members to use the evidence to inform their future practice. We always have evaluation forms so that we're kind of on top of knowing what members want for the next events, and we try to build that in wherever possible. Again, this has already kind of been mentioned, but being organised with dates, locations and topics for your study days is really important, so that members and speakers have plenty of notice to attend, can get permission from their managers, so that you can advertise the event in time. Also, with being a school-based CEN, we have to be really careful about timing, so we try to avoid things like school holidays where some clinicians might only be working term time and wouldn't then be able to attend. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much. It's amazing how quickly time goes. So we've now got an opportunity to answer some of the questions. Quite a number of you have put questions in when you registered, and we've been looking at those, and we'd like to take a moment now to answer some of those questions. Any questions we don't get to right now, we will be writing up the responses to those, and also with those responses putting any links or resources that we might have that might help with some of those answers. So I think one of the questions that came in before was actually somebody who's just moved to a new location where there isn't an existing CEN, and they were interested to know about how do you just go about setting up a new CEN. And I thought perhaps Tom would be a good person to answer the question.
Yeah, thanks, Dom. Yeah, that's a really good question. We've got an information on setting up CEN pack on our webpage, the webpage I was pointing out previously, which has lots of information about how to go about seeing what scoping what the interest is, how to technically go about it, about contacting us and getting it registered, etc. I'm also able to there to help you, so please do get in contact with me. I'm able to help you, link you up with people that may have contacted me with similar questions. We're able to link you up through the hub as well, so you can float ideas and see whether anyone else is interested in starting up a CEN. We're able to also, maybe we were talking about Basecamp before, maybe able to set you up with a closed Basecamp group so that small group of you can actually discuss issues and see whether a CEN is really appropriate, and then we can get it started and press that button, become a CEN. So have a look on our website and do get in contact with me. I'm more than happy to sit and chat through things and see where we can support you.
Another question that we had was about tips about what CENs can do to encourage people to attend CEN meetings, and I thought perhaps Louisa would be able to answer this question.
Thank you. Yeah, it is really hard for people to make time to attend, and I think sometimes to persuade employers or managers that it's useful. And I think one of the ways that we can help members to do that is to really help them to think out the case for attending. So both for themselves, but also for perhaps for managers who aren't speech and language therapists. So it's making that link between clinical expertise and experience practice and improved quality of service delivery in places that we're working. So I think that's one way that might help people. Choosing a topic that everyone wants to be involved with is another one, and things like voting and SurveyMonkey and consulting members will help you to do that. Location is also an issue. So in the Northwest, we're quite a big geographical area in the Northwest of England. I'm very conscious that there are other bigger geographical areas in the UK, but actually choosing somewhere that's accessible for people is quite an important consideration. And finally, just thinking about virtual attendance at meetings. So using remote access and facilities such as Skype can often help with that.
Great. Actually, Louisa, we did have another question, which was about the use of video conferencing to enable CEN members to attend when they can't attend due to distance. I don't know if you want to say any more about whether your CEN has tried it and any thoughts.
We haven't actually tried it, but we asked members at the last meeting whether they thought it would be worth trying, and we are going to be trying it in our next meeting, which is coming up in a few weeks. So, yeah, we can put something on Basecamp to let people know how that was. I mean, I think, you know, in this day and age, we ought to be able to kind of use virtual communication to facilitate people's attendance. So, yes, we're certainly going to give it a go.
Brilliant. And I know that we have got some resources which sort of talk about the types of remote access that you can have, and they're called Technipes, which is short for technical recipes, and we'll put that in our information about after the webinar. One other question which has come up a few times actually, and I thought I'd leave it to the end because there's a few things that we could say about it, and the question is around tips and advice about finding a speaker. And I think the first thing I would like to just say is that actually the RCSLT is more than happy, delighted in fact, to come to members' CEN events or other meetings and activities just to talk about some of the key issues that we know the profession is facing, or to engage members in key projects that we have underway. So just very quickly, some of those examples would be, we've given presentations in the last year around outcome measures, CQ Live, and looking at some of the typical scenarios that come up around professional practice, research and evidence-based practice, as Lauren's mentioned, a lot of work around the digital strategy and the different types of functionality that people might like in terms of supporting people in their everyday practice, CPD tips and advice about using social media, and also, quite in a very practical sense, if you're looking for a speaker and you've given us enough notice, we can usually put people in touch with advisors, clinical advisors or experts or other people that we might know that we might be able to help you find a speaker. So you can always come to us, but I also thought it'd be useful for Lauren perhaps to just share any ideas that she has being a committee member of her CEN.
Thank you. The way we've kind of found our speakers for events is we like to base ours on really recent research and things that are really relevant to the profession kind of at the time. And the way that we found that this works is just to email the authors of research directly. So usually you can find this just by typing their name into Google, or if they're based at a university, which most of them will be, is to just look on the university webpage and you can find the contact details there. We've generally found most people have been quite keen to disseminate their evidence and their knowledge about a subject, and really keen to link with clinicians as they don't always get that involvement. So it's really keen to important to kind of sell your event and outline the benefits to them as well, not just kind of taking from their discussion. So ways that we do this is just to keep a real clear line of communication between the committee and the speaker, so giving them lots of notice about when the event might be, being really clear about what you want from them and how you want them to tailor their talk, and also asking them about what might work for them. So maybe they would like to do a half-day session rather than a whole-day session. We often offer to reimburse their travel and accommodation costs if appropriate. And also we're trialing out some other ways of working in our study days as well, so having some member-led sessions, so maybe having a speaker in the morning and then some lightning talks based on kind of service provision and real kind of clinical tips from the members of the CEN, and working in that way, just so that it becomes more practical and allows everyone to have their say, really.
Great, thank you. So as you can see, there's quite a wealth of knowledge and information, even just in this room, and I'm sure there's plenty of great advice and tips out there as well. And I think that's one of the great things, really, I suppose, about contacting the RCSLT, is that even if we don't know the answer, we probably know someone who does or who can help. We're almost at the end of the session, and I was just looking at some of the questions that have been submitted, and I think one of the other questions people had asked was about the process of changing from SIG to CEN. And as you know, I think when did we make the change? 2015? It's probably a couple of years ago.
About 2015, yeah.
Yeah, we decided to change the name from Special Interest Group to Clinical Excellence Network. And I think really should be a very straightforward answer. I'm just going to pass you to Tom to help answer that question.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, it is. It's a pretty simple question to answer. The change from SIG to CEN was really purely a name change. So I think it's about ensuring that you re-register with us so that we can register you with a different name. We can help them change any names on Basecamp, etc., to make sure that it signifies that you are no longer a SIG or you're a CEN. I think the main thing would be around bank accounts, etc. And I think again, going back to our CEN financial guidelines will help to sort of guide you along that a little bit better. If you are still having any issues, or if you want to talk through it, by all means give me a call, and I'm more than happy to help you through the process of changing the name. But it is really just a name change.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And we know some people still prefer to use SIG or a different name because it works for them locally, and that's absolutely fine. I think we just, the membership felt that Clinical Excellence Network had a bit more gravitas to it and was more reflective of the activities that were happening. I thought it'd be nice just to recap on the objectives. And so I think hopefully today people have had a greater understanding of some of the resources available. We know that there's plenty more we could have told you about today, but we wanted just to give you a snippet within the time we had. Hopefully you've had some ideas about some of the practical aspects of running a CEN. And hopefully you can get a sense as well, and I'm always in awe of this, of how much of a difference CENs make to the profession and how absolutely vital they are. And I hope that even for you, each member individually, they find a lot of use and benefit from both attending CENs and contributing to the discussions that happen there. So without further ado, all it remains for me to say thank you again to our speakers and to the team here who have helped to make today possible. And thank you very much to all the attendees who have been listening and responding with questions. Many thanks.